not the present Bellevue Library though.
No,
At that time, it was in
No.
a former church building, actually, when we first moved to Bellevue. Then they later built a new structure.
Just as
So-
Columbia City has changed very much from when we
But
were.
the
yes.
Columbia Library has not changed all that.
No,
much.
it hasn't.
Architecturally, from
It
the front
feels
particularly.
the same when we came
It did.
to look at, yes. I don't
Except it
think it
was
was
much
quite
bigger.
as elaborate,
Then.
Green-
Because of perspective.
Right.
yeah.
But the front, no, it's still the same. It's
Yeah, the
very
front, really.
admirable and durable architectural style. And I think they added on to it very tastefully, coming out to the rear with a reasonably compatible structure that doesn't change the facade at all.
Al, don't you think probably greenery too? They did something with the greenery? to make
Well,
it
I'm
look
sure the landscaping
Very pretty, very
is
nice.
much better now than it was
Oh,
then.
Very nice.
But we weren't that interested in landscaping when I was in elementary school.
We are now, but not then.
So,
But,
and the trees got a little bigger.
They did?
Yeah.
Oh. Are they the same trees?
Oh, I can't
don't
guarantee that.
think so.
We looked at some, I bet the evergreen trees, a lot of them
Huh?
have
Could it be
persisted.
9 years old? I don't know.
Well, but along Rainier Avenue, it was
It's
treeless.
amazing when you think you could
In
be
my
older than some
adolescence,
trees.
and of course, it's
Some
now
tall trees.
quite verdant with trees,
Yes, it is.
which is nice. I don't like the traffic as much, but I like the trees.
No, and they just last week, the week before, changed it to where it's 2 lanes instead of 4.
Oh, yeah,
And they put the suicide lane in the
Uh-huh.
center.
Oh dear,
oh, yeah.
watch out for that.
Well, I attended just recently a lecture on traffic in California, and I'm the traffic engineer for the city of Santa Barbara, and he says the most dangerous streets in the city are those that are 2 lanes each way, because of where you have pedestrians crossing and so forth, because it's so easy for one lane to proceed when they should be stopped and hit pedestrians. So actually in Santa Barbara, they've reduced from 2 to 1 in many cases and put in a bike lane. I'm not saying this is a good process, but that's what they've done, because they were avoiding these 2 lanes in each direction. But it cuts down the amount of traffic you can carry.
That sure does.
In Seattle, that's a big problem now, at least from the little bit we've seen in the last few days.
Mhm.
Yeah, we've been amazed to see how much, road improvements that they're attempting. And so it looks very different, and it's very hard to find your way a little bit because the signage is not as good as we're used to. Actually, the signage does not look too.
With all these orange signs with the black symbols can be very confusing.
It can be. But I think you probably want to get onto
Yes.
the library. What-
Let's, so now, moving on to,
To him first,
okay, we'll
because he
stick
was
with
here when he was
Alfred.
younger.
Yeah,
Okay, what is your first memory of Columbia Library?
well, it was in elementary school, I'm sure, and probably around the 2nd grade or something like this. Okay, so that would have been, I was probably 7 or 8 years old.
I don't think
So
you
that's
skipped
80 years or so ago, so it's a long time ago. Earliest memory is coming to the library, and probably it was on Saturday, for the librarian to read stories. And it was a female librarian, I have the slightest idea what her name was, but she made an impression, and those stories were very impressive, and did that for several years, but then got very much into the habit of using the library, which is, from where I lived, I'm sure it's much less than a mile away. I could walk here, could walk down Hudson Street, Rainier Avenue, and it wasn't as heavily trafficked and dangerous in those years, and would check out books regularly. The next major thing I remember is probably in about the junior high years, I became interested in books by an author named Alt Scheller, Altsheler. And this man wrote several series of books. One was on sort of the conquering of the northeastern United States, and cowboys and Indians in a sense, but they weren't cowboys. But the settling and the Rangers and so forth, excellent series of books that captured my imagination. And then he as I got a little older in high school, I encountered another series of books by him, which were on the Civil War. And it was a set of probably 10 books or so that were just excellent, which impressed me very much and occupied a lot of my attention during junior high and high school years. And I think accelerated my completion of the elementary school program. Was that, I'm pretty sure it was, so I was even in the 8th grade. We were sort of studying the Civil War, and I had very good preparation through reading these books, which are fictional, but very related to the historical narrative. And so I was on top of that. And they developed the feeling that I was ready to leave, so I left a half year early. I'm sure I was out of sequence already. And so continued to use the library, but as I got into, up through high school, I'm sure, after college, no, not anymore. We were going down to the University of Washington and so forth, and after the first year I lived on campus. But then we used extensively the libraries and the rest of our life, as Arlene said, with the children. It impressed me very much in my early years. That was very important.
How often did you visit in your?
I would imagine I would come here 2 or 3 times a week. Might have been at least once a week. I don't remember it that specifically, but I was a frequent visitor.
You were then.
I had a paper route in high school, and for most of the time, it was sort of across the street here in that neighborhood, so I was in the area of the deal.
So can you tell us a story about your best memory at Columbia Library?
Well, the best memory is encountering these books by a fellow named Alma Shelley, and they probably don't even exist anymore.
I'm going to be looking him up when we're done.
But they were terrific. The later library books that I encountered were, I think by then I was using the downtown library more, were Upton Sinclair's books. A series of person he called Lanny Budd, which was during the World War I period. These were very well written, very impressive on me. But that was post-Columbia Library.
Okay.
Because by then I just wasn't that oriented to this community anymore.
Yeah.
I wasn't living at home, I
Yeah,
guess.
you were living at
Yeah.
home.
So that's where I stand on the library.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Let's see. I think you've touched on many of these questions that we had lined up.
Okay.
So, with your permission, I'd like to ask Arlene the same
Yeah.
questions.
With your permission.
You can't keep her from talking.
So, where
I'm 91.
Okay, I couldn't ask.
Sure. Actually, I'm 91 and a half.
Oh, okay.
Please put that in there.
I will. Thank you. And where were you born?
I was born in Portland, Oregon.
Oh, okay. And what is your first memory of Columbia Library?
Columbia Library, my father was somebody who was what's called a tool and die man, and that meant he went around to a variety of places, and we would have to move all the time. So that I remember when we came here, I was maybe about 9, and I was over in Empire Way, and because we moved so much, I was a very lonely person. I never made friends because I was there for such a show, sometimes only 6 months, 3 months at a school or a place, so that it was very difficult for me. And I had a little sister of which I had to take care of because my mother worked and my father worked, both of them worked. And so at the age of about 6, I started taking care of my little sister. And she was 21 months younger than I was. So that was what I had to do. And besides being lonely to be with without having other friends, I had that responsibility. So that when we came here to Empire Way, we were there for not terribly long, but during that time, I would bring my sister by the hand from Empire Way. And of course, there were not as many houses then,